Well, the Browns will head to Pittsburgh on Monday Night Football, and Mary Kay, some not great news for the Browns. Amari Cooper, their top wide receiver, suffered some sort of groin injury during practice today. He has been downgraded to questionable for this game, and of course, we don't need to tell everyone. That would be an enormous loss for this football team. We're going to tell them anyway. That would be an enormous loss for this football team if Amari's unable to go in Pittsburgh.
Yeah, those Friday injuries, today is sort of a football Friday, even though it's really Saturday, but those Friday late practice injuries are always killers because you've got the game plan in, you've installed everything, and then all of a sudden, one of your best players, your starters, is questionable for the football game. And this isn't just any football game. This is the Pittsburgh Steelers in Pittsburgh on Monday Night Football with a chance to go to 2-0. So it's a big deal that Amari suffered this groin injury. The only good thing about it, as far as the Browns are concerned, is the fact that Amari Cooper is a gamer. He hates playing injured. He hates being injured. He hates missing time. He'll do everything he can to play.
Yeah, and of course, we were talking about this a little bit. He suffered that core injury, Ashley, last year on a Friday, and he still went out there against Cincinnati, but we were all watching that game. He didn't look like himself, and that would just be a big issue. Even if you get Amari, but he's not full Amari, that's a problem.
Yeah, and Amari Cooper throughout his career has been one of these guys who it's very important for him to not miss games due to injury. He hasn't missed one due to an actual injury in a handful of years now at this point, and he always talks about how it's very important for him to be available, really takes that to heart, it seems like. But last year, down the stretch of the regular season, when he was dealing with that core muscle injury, I think everyone could tell he just wasn't the same. Even though he went out there and really gutted it out and wanted to be available, you really need him. I think it's important for him to be totally okay for the most part in this early part of the season. So definitely unfortunate, and especially for it to happen later in the week.
We will note that we did spot Amari in the locker room very briefly during the open locker room today. He did walk out. There was nothing really noticeable seeing Amari, but still no indication of whether he'll play on Monday night or not. Now, one other player we're keeping an eye on is Juan Thornhill. He's been dealing with that calf injury, but Mary Kay, he has been trending in the right direction. You declared on our video yesterday he was going to play Monday night, and I'm guessing you still feel confident about that.
Yes, he's also listed as questionable, but as I mentioned yesterday, I watched him warm up and try to go against the Bengals. He wasn't able to do that, but certainly 8 days later, he should be ready to go. He's been out there practicing each of the last 2 days. He's been limited, but I think it's trending in the right direction.
And again, Ashley, we've talked about Juan, what he means emotionally on the field. Just to have that full defense going against Pittsburgh, finally kind of see what it all looks like will be exciting.
Yeah, I think that's a key part too, and especially knowing Pittsburgh is going to be shorthanded on their offensive side as well, especially not having Deontay Johnson. I think it's a chance to really take advantage there if you're the Browns defense.
Well, it's funny you should mention that because we have to talk about another Steelers wide receiver who will play but did pop up on the injury report, and that is George Pickens with a hamstring injury. Mary Kay, with Deontay Johnson not playing in this game, Pickens' role was going to grow, and of course we know what he's capable of doing, especially making those spectacular catches. So you got to keep an eye on that. Even if he plays, if he's dealing with a hamstring, it has to affect him.
Yes, in the same way that a groin injury would really hamper Amari Cooper. You need those soft tissues to be 100% healthy when you are running as a wide receiver. You have to be able to run to be able to play your game. So if George Pickens is suffering from a hamstring injury, he probably really won't be himself. And when you talk to any of the defensive backs in the Browns locker room, they always mention George Pickens. So that would be something to keep an eye on.
And look, Ashley, are we going to get robbed of Martin Emerson versus George Pickens? We need to see that matchup at 100%.
We need to see that rematch. People may remember in the Thursday night game against the Steelers last year, George Pickens made that great one-handed catch. Martin Emerson Jr. was the one defending him, and there wasn't much more Martin could have done on that play. I know Martin, because he wants to always look at his own play, I think with a critical eye, said he did feel like he could do some things different last year, but I love his physicality. George Pickens is one of those more physical receivers. Of course, there is the history that Martin Emerson Jr. alluded to earlier this week. The Browns had a chance to draft George Pickens instead of Martin Emerson, and they didn't, and he remembers the talk from fans about that.
All right, we don't need to go down that road here on this video. Anyway, full coverage of everything leading up to Monday Night Football, our picks, all the news, all at cleveland.com/Browns.